it's so, all these artists just overreact about everything, dude. Just relax. Just relax and have fun with life. Why is it so hard? Why does everything have to get to this shunning people and canceling people? Why does it always have to get to that? Just relax. After my video about adoptables, y'all wanted me to talk about closed species. I got so many comments asking me to talk about closed species. So here you go. Closed species. Yay! There are many topics of discussion within the art community on the internet, whether it's on DeviantArt, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Tumblr, anywhere you go. Everyone's always arguing and fighting with each other and trying to cancel each other constantly for the pettiest of reasons. And one thing that brings about a lot of that is closed species. A closed species is when an artist creates a species. They claim ownership of that species. They can set their own rules, like they don't want anyone else to draw any characters of this species. They don't want anyone else to use this species without permission or without paying or so on and so forth. Basically, they create a species and claim all ownership to it. You know, the same way you'd claim all ownership to a character you make, they claim the entire species, the concept of this particular type of animal. So I went to my Discord and I asked everyone, I said, hey, what do you think about closed species? Do you have any stories involving closed species? Put it in this new channel and it may end up in a video. You can join my Discord with the link down below. But let's take a look at some of the responses that we got. I was just chilling, you know. I heard about the nimbless species or whatever and I checked it out. Not my exact story, but one of my friends tried to make one where they were still open and got turned down because they had a bad reputation, quote unquote. The only bad thing art related they had done was trace art, and that had been years ago. My friend is now banned from the nimbless species and all the mods hate us, LOL. Wow. I mean, honestly, I've heard nothing but horror stories about closed species. I've heard nothing but bad about closed species. Artists taking extreme control of them. And this example right here, Owo's friend was not allowed to make a character of this closed species simply because this person had traced art in the past, which in the art community on the internet, tracing art is like equivalent to committing not alive to someone. That's how you avoid YouTube's demonetization. So as I'm sipping on this beverage right here, wow, this beverage is encased in this mug that has a very familiar face on it. Wow. If only there was a way you could purchase this mug using the link down below, pkrussl.com. You can purchase this mug or this design on shirts. And there's also a version that just says PK rather than this, so you can actually wear it in public. That'd be kind of cool. But you know, I think people like to hold grudges for way too long. People like to take things that are not really that evil and make them out to be like the most evil thing in the world. It's the broken window theory. And it's playing out here on the internet with people like this, where you trace art one time, you can never have fun again. You can never participate in anything again. Even though tracing art is honestly not that big of a deal. It's really not that big of a deal, right? If you trace art once, it's not that big of a deal. If you trace art and you have tons of followers and you pass it off as your own, or you trace art and you try to sell it as your own, then that's a little bit different. But you know, a kid making a mistake, who cares? It's not that big of a deal. The broken window theory is when you make little things out to be like the most evil thing ever. It's like punishing someone for breaking a window way more than that crime deserves. Like way more. And I think that's what's happening here with this person who traced art, being punished way more than they need to be. It just shows how bitter these artists are that own closed species, We'll get into that in a second. Just make a species. You don't have to make it a closed species. See, this is what I'm saying. If I made a species myself, I would want other people to make their own characters in that species. I'd want my species to grow and thrive and be popular. I wouldn't want to suppress it. It's like, it's almost counterintuitive, almost. Making your species closed seems snobbish to me. I agree. It is very snobbish. It reminds me of Karens. I used to work at a grocery store in a rich part of town, and all my customers were all Karens. They were all Karens. And this behavior that I see in the art community is not just with closed species, it's with adoptables, it's with everything. They all act like Karens. They're the type of people who would go into a store and say, can I speak to a manager? The only difference is that they lack social confidence. So in real life, they would never actually do that. But on the internet, when they're behind a screen and behind, you know, an anonymous pseudonym, they can say whatever they want. But in person, they'd be too scared to do it. We'll come back to reading more of those in just a second, but let's take a look at some examples of closed species, what they look like. Tsunami original species adoptable. Wow, it's a neko-human. It's literally a human with ears and a tail, and you're claiming ownership over that concept. Absolutely not. Here's another one. Same thing, it's just a neko-human. You can't claim that concept as your own. It's been around forever. You can't just claim that and say that you own this idea. It's not, you can't do it. If you want to own this character, you can absolutely own the character, but the idea of a human with ears and an animal tail, absolutely not. Here's another one, Misty Pups. It's a dog. You cannot claim dogs as your own species. It's a dog, Dracoon species. It's a human with a tiny little weird tail. You don't own the concept of humans. You can't. It's a human. This is a human. You cannot own this. And lastly, this one is just straight up a human with no distinct details that isn't a human. You cannot own this. It's a human. And of course, Crown Prince comes in with a lovely, lovely mouth butt here. Mouth must be located on the butt. Facial features like scars and freckles belong on the butt. If it has wings, the wings have to go on its face. Now you have to pay me if you want to draw a mouth on a butt. Good job, Crown Prince. This is a joke, by the way. If you don't get it, I feel like I have to explain jokes now because people don't understand anything anymore. Crown Prince is not for real. This is a joke. He's joking, or she, or whoever, whatever gender this person is. I mean, I don't get the point of making it a closed species, but I get the point of wanting to be credited for the creation of the species. See, this is an interesting concept here. I get it too. Like if I created a species, I'd probably want to be credited for it if someone uses it. However, that becomes a weird thing when you think about Pokemon, because do you credit whoever created the Pokemon that you're drawing? Because Pokemon are basically closed species is what they are. It's weird, there's like a double standard there. Once again, there's so many double standards in the art community. Do you credit the creator of the species? Because just crediting the Pokemon company or crediting Nintendo is not crediting the individual artist who made that Pokemon. So is that morally incorrect to do? Closed species are stupid and cause too much drama. There's many I dislike. I have an OC that has a long scarf-like arms, and well, they kind of look like a fox. Guess what it looked like? The stupid scar fox's closed species. Now the name already annoys me, but I was attacked and berated for having a scar fox when they were a closed species and I wasn't allowed to make one. Well, this OC wasn't even a scar fox. He just looked like one, I guess. But no one believed me, so I had to end up deleting my OC post just so the hate could stop because of the white knights that wouldn't stop sending me not alive threats because of an OC I had that looked like a closed species. Jeez, these artists are savage, dude. They stop at nothing. You can buy this mug down below, Pkrussl.com. There is no length that they won't go to absolutely destroy you if you do anything that they think is morally wrong. Ugh. Like having a fox with scarf arms. Scarf fox. What do you do if someone does that? You send not alive threats. It's a little bit of an overreaction, possibly. I was gifted to make a character for my friend's closed species around 2 years ago. It was some short human-ish character with ears and a tail. More like a bunny neko, to be honest. Eventually, me and that friend fell through because I got busy with school and she didn't feel like I paid enough attention to her. She ended up revoking my right to her species completely and ripping that character for me to use for her own personal use. Wow. Talk about yet another overreaction from a salty artist. I see this a lot. It's usually with really young artists, which there's a lot of. It's like you allow someone to use a character and then as soon as you stop being friends, it's like, I'm taking it back. It's just petty and dumb. Acting like little tiny babies is what everyone is acting like. The art community is so toxic, dude. It's so toxic. Now, where it really gets interesting is the legality of it. Is this legal? Can you actually own a species? Is that even possible? Anyone can draw a dog. Nobody owns dogs, okay? But then these closed species on DeviantArt, you know, you can claim ownership of, okay. But what about things like unicorns? Is that a closed species? Whoever came up with that first, going by the logic of closed species, should own all rights to the unicorn species, right? And no one should be allowed to make a unicorn without permission. What about Pokemon? Are Pokemon closed species? If you draw a Pokemon, are you breaking the law? Now, I'm not talking about drawing Ash's Pikachu, the character. I'm talking about drawing just a generic Pikachu as part of the species. Is that breaking the law? I'm not sure that the concept of a species can be owned by someone. A character, absolutely, but the concept of a species, I'm not sure about that. Here's a journal on DeviantArt. Ripper, as the title suggests, I got the opportunity to ask a lawyer's opinions regarding fictional species. The lawyer stated that if the creators can be identified, the works is then eligible to be protected under copyright laws. This means that creatures and characters from legends like Griffins and Hercules, for example, are in public domain. However, specific depictions produced by identifiable artists like Disney's Hercules do fall under copyright laws. Interesting. That's interesting. But here's the thing. Here's a very important life lesson for everyone watching this YouTube video right now. Just because a lawyer says something does not mean that it's necessarily true, because there are laws about everything. There's millions of laws. Well, I don't know if there's millions, but there's hundreds of thousands of laws in the US government, and no one lawyer knows all of them and how they all work. Who's the lawyer that you talk to here? Who is this lawyer? What do they specialize in? Do they specialize in cases of not alive? Committing not alive? Do they specialize in copyright? Because then they'd be qualified to talk about this. Or do they specialize in, you know, music copyright? Because that's a different type of copyright from digital art copyright. There's so many different types of lawyers. Just because a lawyer says that something is true doesn't necessarily mean that it is. Probably it is, because lawyers know generally about most laws, but if they don't specialize in that specific field, I wouldn't trust that lawyer 100%. I'd talk to an expert, a lawyer who works in that particular field. I mean, the best place to get legal advice is Reddit. r/legal advice, off topic. Discourse in the furry community about closed species and copyright law. What's real and what's not. By default, the first person to sketch Mickey obtained all rights to reproduction, mimicry, and transformation the moment they put pen to paper. This is pretty close to what you've called closed. Modulo, I don't know what that word means. A few exceptions for fair use. In order to turn the Mickey IP into an open character, the author would need to draft a license similar to CC by ND. However, unless they registered their mark with the government, they could only sue for actual damages, likely to be 0 unless they have a strong history of commercial sales. Basically, everywhere I've looked, it seems like this is just a big gray area. No two legal experts agree really exactly with how this works. There's not really been any cases of this because closed species is such a dumb concept. It's so stupid. It's only something that the art community could come up with, is the idea of a closed species, because it's so stupid and dumb. I once had a friend that made a species that was literally just a mixture between a deer and a fox, called it Diox, and she just kind of smashed them together and treated them as if they were groundbreaking creation. Even though drawing animals with antlers in the animation meme community are sort of aesthetic thing, or whatever, she allowed people to make their own with credit, even though it's legitimately just a fusion of a deer and a fox, and those people probably already existed. Yeah, that's the part about closed species that is really dumb, is when you just shove two animals together and you're like, this is my species, no one else can use it. It never got to not alive threats with me, but yo, I was kicked out of 3 private groups and 2 Discord servers because I refused to take down art of something that looked similar to their species. No hard feelings though, I think it was a toxic community to begin with. Sounds very toxic, yeah. You draw something that looks similar to a creature that someone else drew, you're kicked out. No longer friends with us. What a nasty person, terrible person you are. I think it's so, all these artists just overreact about everything, dude. Just relax. Just relax and have fun with life. Why is it so hard? Why does everything have to get to this shunning people and canceling people? Why does it always have to get to that? Just relax. Well, this was a few years ago when I was still in school. I used to draw a lot of weird stuff and whatnot. Abominations, I call them. So I posted thinking, hey, maybe I'll make this into a character. After a day and I come home from school, I log in and I notice a note and a few more notifications than usual. A user who I'll call Bill because I literally have no memory of their username and junk sent me a long, poorly written rant about how I was trying to steal their species? I didn't know what a closed species was at the time, so I was entirely confused. The kid must have been pretty livid because he said something along the lines of, I will have you banned and have all of your stolen character taken away. And something along the lines of, if I find you, I'm gonna get you. Honestly, since I was younger and haven't really gotten into much drama before like that, I was a little scared. Some of their followers left comments on my post about how I was a bad person and I hope someone beats you up. All the childish kitty stuff. It sounds like adults in the furry community. Oh, damn, peanut butter and jam. Got him. We're at the point where adults are behaving like children. You know what I'm saying? Honestly, I feel like it was an unnecessary overreaction. I hate when people are so like humble about this. Like, I feel like it was an unnecessary. It was unnecessary. And it was an extreme overreaction. There shouldn't have even been a reaction. there should be no reaction other than, oh, this is great. Just because something looks similar to something else that someone else drew does not mean that it's stolen. So if you've ever wondered how to make a closed species, here's how you do it. How to make a closed species. This is a common question I see people asking, so it's about time to make a general reference for it. The first step most people take when designing a species is, of course, the species itself. Okay, you have to come up with lore as well, all right, okay. You set up a group where people can come and talk about your species, like a Discord server or something like that, okay. Now here's where it gets, like, ridiculous. Master list. It's a very good idea to have some sort of master list for your community. This is a record of all your adopts and the users that own them. So basically, you have to keep a list of every single person who has made a character within your species. It's like Big Brother. You're trying to control everyone else who is interested in this species. You have to have a list. They must be on the list, or else they've stolen your character. Oh my gosh, or your species. And then there's also rules here. Common closed species rules. Don't claim the species as yours. Don't change the design or make it not the species anymore. Don't make your own without permission. Tell the species owner if a design is sold or traded. Rules checklist, terms of service, a plan to enforce terms of service, mods optional. You know, I think that everyone is like way overthinking everything here. You're making what is such a simple concept so incredibly, exponentially way more overcomplicated than it should ever be. And it's just creating so much confusion. And that's what leads to all the drama, is the confusion, because people don't know what's happening. And then like you treat anyone who breaks any of these rules as if they're an evil villain, which is not true at all. It's everyone's just overreacting, being way too protective of their species that they own. It's just a big mess. It's a big mess. There's too much. It's ridiculous. For all the people against closed species, rant. First of all, you are entitled to your own opinions. Everyone is. You don't have to like closed species, but that does not give you the right to steal them. For the people who tell me that closed species limits their freedom or creativity, no, it does not. In fact, it gives you more freedom. Freedom to create your own ideas without having to copy someone else. That sure is creative freedom if I've ever heard of it. Well, you're also like literally putting limits in place to limit what people can do. You're literally limiting people by saying you cannot make this character unless you get permission from me first or pay for it. I don't know how that at all expands your freedom. It's literally limiting your freedom. So let me put this into a real world perspective. Person A goes to work at a job every day. Person B comes in and tells person A's boss that they did person A's job when they obviously didn't. And person B is demanding the money for person A's work. That is pretty much what you are doing when you steal a closed species. Well, but if you think about it like this, the real world does work like that. It absolutely does. When you're hired at a company, your boss takes credit for all of your work. And then your boss's higher-ups praise your boss for the work that you did. You're being paid for your labor. It literally does work like that. The real world does work like that. People higher up take credit for your work. You make some good points, but like, this is just, it comes off as like, I'm in 6th grade and I'm mad and I'm gonna yell about it. It doesn't come off as like productive. It's just nothing is being said here. I like all the comments. Owning a concept is stupid. I can slap flowers on a fish and call it a species. A concept is not something you can own. It's simply an idea. See, I agree somewhat to an extent. I mean, you can totally own a concept. It's called intellectual property, but you know, in terms of closed species, it's a very gray area. No matter what anyone thinks in the matter, you revoke your human being status if you attack, berate, or even threaten another artist for having made a closed species for personal use, or otherwise attack anyone with even a similar idea. Seriously, you if you do that. That's abusive and not remotely okay, and the cult-like way I've seen little minions for artists do this is just horrific. Very great point. Very good. You do not seem to understand the concept. It's not that we are against closed species, is that closed species cannot exist to begin with. If I draw a green dog with a top hat, I cannot close green dogs with top hats. Yes, I own my green dog with a top hat, and anyone drawing my green dog with a top hat is in fact infringing on my rights and the law. If I copyrighted it, you cannot copyright the idea of a green dog in a top hat. Thus, I cannot forbid people from drawing other green dogs with a top hat, nor can I sue them if they do. In short, whether you like or dislike closed species does not matter. Closed species do not exist to begin with. I love it. I mean, I agree, but also at the same time, not really. It's weird. Like, I agree in most cases, this is probably true, especially because a lot of closed species are just literally, it's just a dog. It's just a dog. You can't copyright a dog. But like, what about Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy? Groot is a species, but if you draw a Groot Are you infringing on Disney's copyright? Probably. I don't know. I don't know how it works. That's why it's such a gray area, because no one seems to know the answer. But I certainly do enjoy when people put overreacting artists in their place like this. Just stating the facts, like you need to calm down and stop being a baby and relax and think about reality like it really is. Stop overreacting. This is why everyone hates artists. They're just dumb. They like to overreact all the time to everything. Go on moral crusades when they're the ones acting immoral. Planet Maya, I don't know how to say that, is a closed species that does force you to pay $100 for a character. You have to pay $35 for a chance to get a make your own, and you are probably not even gonna get one. I just feel like having to pay $35 to enter a raffle for the chance to win a make your own is kind of immoral and like gambling. Maybe I'm just pulling this out of my, yeah, you're paying $35 for a chance to be able to draw a certain species. The artist is not drawing it for you. You still have to draw it yourself, and you have to pay money to be able to draw their own species. That's ridiculous. You're paying money for a chance to do it, not even a guarantee. That is scummy. This is like loot boxes. It is like gambling. And this is a real thing. If you go here, it's a real thing. You absolutely have to pay $35 for a chance, just a chance to make your own. It's disgusting. It's amazing. I also asked everyone on Twitter what they think about closed species. You can follow me on Twitter, link down below at Pkrussl. They limit creativity due to fear of infringement and create species monopolies. Not only are they unhealthy for artists, the practice is also immoral. I 100% agree. And then Ripper responded by saying, closed species do not limit creativity. It's quite the opposite. When I have my design be so similar to another, I'll think outside the box to make something better. It's not immoral to monopolize your own creations. It's how artists even earn a living. I completely, absolutely disagree with everything that you just said there. Those species absolutely do limit your creativity because you are literally placing limits on what you're allowed to do with the species. You are literally limiting what people can do with it. It does not give them freedom to use the species. You are limiting creativity. It's not immoral to monopolize your own creations. I agree, but not a species. Your own character, yeah, but an entire species, I think it's immoral. Absolutely, it's a species. It's not your own character, but that's just my opinion. I've seen so many original species that were literally either just hybrids or animals with random spikes, wings, etc. From experience, I can say that a lot of those creators, not all, will get extremely toxic if any of your characters have a tiny bit of similarity to their species. It's like, everything that I'm seeing about closed species is just completely negative. Like, no one's had a good experience with closed species. I recently got into a closed species group on DA because there was a make your own event going. If I hadn't found out about it, there's a high chance I wouldn't have gotten a design. I love the character I have, but I don't see myself shelling out any money to spend on a closed species design when I still have student loans to pay. Some species can be really interesting with their lore and designs, but most don't really interest me, especially if the rules are extremely restrictive. Never had someone ask for design back, but I think it's crazy that some creators will do that if you aren't actively using your character or make changes to them. Yeah, some artists will literally take the design back and like revoke your right to use the character, which is completely illegal because you're not using the character or because you changed the character that you purchased. That you're allowed to do whatever you want with because you purchased. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. Artists are insane, dude. They're insane. Why is the art community so messed up? I think closed species are really stupid. In my opinion, I think they're really stupid. There's just so much drama for no reason. It seems like a lot of the artists who have closed species are little babies, you know, that sip on that tea, which you can find in this mug that you can purchase down below, Pkrussl.com. What do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed what you watched today, please consider becoming a patron. It's just $2 per month. Every little bit of support helps me so much. I love my patrons. You're all so amazing. They're all listed on your screen right now. This channel would not be possible without patrons. There's a lot of rewards on Patreon. Go check it out. You get videos early, exclusive videos once per month, exclusive live streams, all that stuff. Go check it out. Link down below. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye! I've got the time.